Good evening and welcome to our program. Can you tell us more about the Green Deal and its importance for the European Union, but also for the European continent?
Yes, with pleasure, and thanks for having me. The Green Deal is what we see as our Europe's future. It is about on how we do things in order to get to the ultimate goal of making Europe the first climate neutral continent by 2050.
Is it real, that date? Do you think
I think it is real. It is ambitious, but it is real. And in the recent past, we have seen that with emission reductions, we can in parallel also see growth in the economy. So it is possible. There are many things that need to be done. There are many challenges that will require actions from all of us. But we need to change our mindset. We need to see that this is not anymore an affirmative action that affects the environment only. We need to translate the Green Deal into our daily activities, but into all our policies in everything what we do, regardless of the sector. If this is in the industry, in agriculture, in businesses, anywhere. It always needs to be triggered and taking into account the Green Deal and its efforts. We have in the recent months, since the adoption of the Green Deal in 2019, for example, 50 policy activities on the level of the European Union have been initiated, taking into account the overarching vision of the Green Deal. But it is true that those changes will not be easy, but we will need to do them, because otherwise the price to pay will be much higher.
It won't be easy, not for you, not even for us, like a candidate country. What kind of instruments can we use for help, European help, for doing this here?
Yes. Environment, climate change, pollution does not recognize any borders. So there is no me, you, ours, theirs. It's the continent of Europe. We want to be the leaders in this regard, and we are very happy that the Western Balkans region and also North Macedonia have embraced the Green Deal agenda for the Western Balkans. And this is certainly something that mirrors what we have for the European Union. And we have also, as in the past, foreseen financial assistance for the countries that will continue in this regard. But it will be a twist in the dimension on how we implement it. We will be now driven in implementation and programming of our activities, regardless of the sector, again, by always taking into account our ultimate goal of climate neutral agenda there. Being a bit more specific, to give you a house number, we have from what we call IPA, the instrument for pre-accession, we have allocated nearly 100 million from the 2021 package that North Macedonia will have at its disposal. But above that, there are also regional instruments that are very significant. And one may say with 100 million you don't make a big difference. But you do make a big difference if these 100 million are grant funds, because these grant funds can attract private investments, can attract additional loans, and therewith we hope that we can multiply the grant funding several times, so to come to these numbers that will be adequate in order to address all the challenges that we are facing.
You've started a campaign recently, and it's not only about the main resources of the planet, but also about these local treasures.
Yes, we're very happy that we have recently launched the campaign on which we have worked in the past months in doing exactly this, taking the Green Deal, but trying to put it in a local context. So for the citizens to embrace it and to also recognize it in their daily lives. And we have tried to establish it in a sequence in several steps, which we hope will be useful for every person, for you and me as a citizen here in North Macedonia. And I'm happy to see that we are also the front runners in the region in this. So we would want to start with awareness raising about informing about the problem. What is it? What does it mean? What is happening around me? And therewith we'll focus on the quality of air, quality of water, quality of soil, and their cleanness. And we will establish a metaphor in using a kind of a museum of the future, which is a bit of a scary picture in having the exponents being at risk, that we will not be possible anymore to enjoy clean air and clean water. and translating this into a local, very popular product, which I'm very happy to see, the jabučar tomato.
Can be in danger
tomatoes,
actually.
Bees, certain species can be very much in danger. And the slogan is zato što nemame rezervna planeta, so recognizable to everybody. And this will be followed by and further information and about embracing all the levels, because again, this is not about the European Union, but this is about the continent of Europe. And there we want to, in all our activities, translating ultimately into action. And that is why we also have launched the Green Deal campaign with mayors, with the presence of the mayors, because at the end you need the cooperation of everybody. Everything is implemented on the local level. We need to have the buy-in of the local leaders and all of the communities, and their cooperation with the institutions also on national level. And we will also then afterwards have awarding of those who do significantly well and who are able to transform all this into their societies.
Talking about implementation, where can you see maybe the weakest points? Where do you think that the problems will occur? In which sectors, which areas, which institutions maybe?
It's easy to say, all of them. It applies all over the board, because whichever sector we look at, you always need to be driven on how does this affect the environment and how can I be better. If I would need to pick out one, maybe it's about the usage of fossil fuel, which is a problem in every country, also in my home country, and the transformation from fossil fuels to renewables, which is a very long-lasting process, which will be very demanding and challenging. But if we think and remind ourselves that here in North Macedonia, 80% of the greenhouse gas emissions come from fossil fuels in the production of energy, transport, heating, this is enormous. And this transfer needs to happen, because we cannot wait for the ultimate renewable to come in place, but we need to act already now, because we need to clean our air that we are breathing here every day.
Yes, talking about the energy and the sector of energy, we cannot escape from the fact that we're actually focusing so much on the process of gasification. And do you think that it's possible to do both, this strategy and this process?
I think that is exactly the idea, that this process has to serve both. But the intention is that we keep the gasification according to the needs, not to roll it out full-fledged and then afterwards that we'll need to roll back when we have the renewables installed. But it is also true that the Green Deal can only be achieved if we at the same time also ensure economic growth. We need to have prosperity for the citizens. We cannot have a standstill and turn ourselves only on environmental aspects. And there we also have the great hope. But therefore we also need to have energy supply and energy security. So we cannot live in an uncertainty when it gets to the energy demand. Having
in mind this crisis that it's knocking on our door, actually.
Exactly. So I think turning into a transitionary phase of gas supplies can indeed serve both purposes, that we can have a quicker translation of the greenhouse gas emissions and a quick significant reduction, whereas thereby serving the energy needs, and at the same time constantly in parallel thinking about our long-term vision of moving towards renewables, especially here in North Macedonia, where we have very favorable conditions for photovoltaic power plants that we are also supporting in Bitola and Oslome, a potential for wind energy, and this is certainly the way ahead.
My last question will be more in general. What do you think about the ecology, the treatment of ecology, and the importance of environment here?
I think it's enormously important. It is what's our precious that we have to take care of. It is about the biodiversity. It is about the local specificities that we have here, but also about the local species. And we are very happy to see that in North Macedonia the protected surface of areas is increasing. So we have more natural parks, which also brings then certain rights and obligations with it. But this is not where it ends. But I think with the treasures that North Macedonia has and the beauty of the country, and also with the geopolitical landscape, it is certainly a big win for the European Union, and on its way to becoming a member state of the European.
And what about the awareness? Do you think it's rising as well?
I think it is, but again, I think it needs to be transposed in that it applies everywhere, to so-called mainstream it, to make it really a horizontal aspect, that when somebody who is constructing a house, or when the Ministry of Education wants to renovate a school, that it's not just about the renovation, but it's about energy efficiency. What can I do? Shall I address also my heating system? Shall I address the isolation? And then again, this requires several players in the field to provide this assessment, which may at the beginning look more costly, but in the long term it will pay out, and certainly ultimately for all of us as citizens and as part of the world population, this will what we will have to do.
Thank you very much for your time and for the messages.
Thank you for having me.